Hi guys, it's Jen with creativelyhomemade.com. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. Normally I share craft tutorials with you, but today I wanted to do a flip through of my travel journal scrapbook from vacation. I thought, there's a lot of people going on vacation right now, and this is a great way to document your memories from your most recent trip. Now I like to use 6x8 binder scrapbooks when I make a vacation journal. The size, I just like the size of it, and it works well. I have a week's worth of memories and pictures in there, and it's just the perfect size for a vacation. So I thought I would flip through it with you and give you some tips along the way for creating your own vacation journal scrapbook. So for starters, I wanted to give you a tip to look in the souvenir shops for car stickers, because they are perfect to use on the cover of your scrapbook, and that way it personalizes it a little bit and you'll know at a glance exactly what the scrapbook is from. So I picked this up in a little souvenir shop on Kelley's Island. I really like the colors, and it has a photo of the sunset over the lake, and I just thought that was really pretty. So I got that and I stuck it on my album cover. So that's my first tip, and so let's look inside. Now I use a combination of standalone pages and page protectors, and then I use a hole punch to insert maps and brochures, and I just really like the kind of eclectic look of it. So that style works very well for me. Now my second tip for you is to bring along some Project Life style cards, the 4x6 and the 3x4. I find it easier to journal as I go along. That way everything's fresh in my mind. I would set aside some time in the evening and I would do that. And that way, I didn't have to worry about forgetting everything, because I was writing about it when it was still fresh in my mind instead of waiting until months later. So that's a good tip. Bring along a journaling pen and some Project Life cards, and then you can do it right there and it's ready to go in your journal when you get home. Now my second tip is to get postcards. Not only do they make great journaling spots, but you can also, it's a great way to have professional photographs of things that you see on your trip. I'm not the best photographer. I'm working on it, but I still don't always take the best pictures, so that way is a great way to make sure that I have some really good pictures of the things we saw on our vacation. Now the horizontal postcards I will go ahead and put into page protectors, so I don't use those as journaling spots, but later on you'll see where I've used them to actually use as a journaling space. So here I took some pictures on a ferry. We took our camper over on the ferry to Kelley's Island. I went into PicMonkey, and since these were vertical pictures and this was a 4x6 page protector, it had two slots for two 4x6s, I went ahead and took two vertical pictures and used the collage option in PicMonkey to put two photographs on one. So that's what I did there, and you can leave the border or take it off. Now here's a brochure I picked up while we were on the island. I thought it would be neat to look back and see like the prices for the ferry and how much we spent and things like that. So that's another tip for you. Anytime you have a place where you can pick up a brochure from something you did or saw, I recommend getting one, and then just use a hole punch and stick it right in your binder. The nice thing about these little 6x8 mini binders is that you can use a standard 3-ring hole punch, and you just use two of the rings, or two of the holes, I mean. So here's my next page. This is the first sight we saw when we got off the ferry, is this Welcome to Kelley's Island sign, and I didn't happen to catch a photo of that as we were driving by, so I picked up a postcard in the shop, in the souvenir shop. And then this is some more journaling about our trip. We had quite an interesting start to our trip. We got a flat tire right before we got on the ferry, so we had to drive to the campground on a flat tire and try to figure out how to get our tire changed when there are no service stations on Kelley's Island, so that was interesting. So I wrote about that. I picked up a postcard of the state park where we stayed at, and then I took a picture of our campsite. We have a little teardrop trailer, so that was our home away from the home for the week. This is another thing I like to keep. We go camping a lot, so in Ohio State Parks they give you a little car pass. I think technically you're supposed to turn these in, but I like to keep them for my scrapbook. And I just punched holes in it to add it to my binder, but then it makes a great spot on the back to do some journaling. And I used a little Stampin' Up! Teardrop trailer stamp on the back of that. All the Ohio State parks have brochures, so I picked up one for Kelley's Island, and I'm including that. And then this is the campground map that we got, and I just put that in a 6x8 page protector. And then here's a map of the island, so I just included that as well. Now I wanted to mention another tip. When you are picking up brochures at your attractions, go ahead and get 2 or 3 copies, because in addition to keeping them whole so that you can look at them later, sometimes it's fun also to cut things out of the brochures and include them on your layouts. So that's what I've done here. I got a second copy of this brochure and I cut the map out of it. I just kind of wanted to show the layout of the island, and then I did a little bit of journaling down here. So always get multiple copies if you can. And here I just included some photos. I mentioned up here I always tend to write down what we eat for the day or for the meal when we go camping, because it's fun to look back at later, and it gives me ideas for future camping trips of meals to make. Here's a little brochure of some of the places that we went and saw on Kelley's Island, some of the places where we went hiking. There's another postcard. Here's another example of something I cut out of the brochure because I wanted to highlight that. We went and saw the glacial grooves on Kelley's Island, and that was in this brochure, but I wanted it to have its own separate area in case somebody didn't bother to open this when they were looking through my book. And there's more pictures of the glacial grooves and the sign. I always take pictures of signs. I don't know if I'm weird, but I just do. And then more photographs and journaling of when we visited the lake. More photographs. Now here is something a little bit different. We go letterboxing. If you are not familiar with letterboxing, it's similar to geocaching. But instead of looking for a little box of trinkets in the woods, you're going to be finding a box that has a hand-carved stamp in it. So we collect the stamps from all the letterboxes we found, so I just wrote about that. We found quite a few letterboxes on Kelley's Island, so you'll be able to see more of those stamps as the album goes on. Here are just some more postcards of some scenery we saw on the island. More postcards. Now this right here, the Off the Beaten Path, I had tried to stamp on this photo with Stays on ink, which I normally do all the time, but this was a close to my heart stamp set, and I don't know if they don't play nice with Stays on, but I could never get it stamped directly on the photo, so I had to stamp on paper and cut it out, which I really didn't prefer, but just went with it. Here's another section that I cut out from a brochure because that was something else we visited. Here's more stamps, more letterbox stamps that we found. This was funny. When we were up on Kelley's Island, they have mayflies, and I had never heard of mayflies before, but they are all over the place. I mean, they like swarm you. And so my daughter was scared of them. They don't bite or anything, they're just kind of annoying, but she was terrified of them, so I had to make sure to take a picture of an actual mayfly and include it in the book. But then just more photos and journaling. I like to use little die cuts to put right on the pictures so I can include some journaling on the pictures if there's some blank space on the picture. More letterboxing. We did a lot of letterboxing up there. Here's a picture of my husband making breakfast, which was fun. I always like to include the little things like that too, because, you know, trips like that aren't all just about what you see. Sometimes it's about, you know, the little moments like fixing meals together. So I include some of those things as well. Here's some more photos that of sites we saw. And I used, I can't remember who did this die set, but this is like, it's got a crinkle edge and it's perfect for journaling spots. So you'll see the crinkly edge die cuts all throughout the rest of this book. Now here's an example of where I was able to use StazOn to stamp right on the photo. This is a Stampin' Up! Stamp, and it worked perfectly with the StazOn ink going on the photo, so I'm not sure what about the acrylic stamps with Close to My Heart doesn't work nicely with that. But I also did it on this photo right here. I like to stamp when there's sky or you know, just blank areas in your photo. Just put a little saying or a stamp or something on there to add some interest to the photo. This was kind of cool. I took a picture of a geocoin that we found. We were hiking and we found this geocache. It's actually from Sweden, so it's a long way from home. So I thought that was kind of cool. Just lots more pictures of our hiking adventures and more letterboxes that we found. Here's another example of taking pictures of silly little things. We went and stopped at a place for ice cream, and these birds were kind of dive bombing us on the porch. We were sitting on the porch eating ice cream, and so I had to take a picture of the birds that were kind of harassing us. Just more pictures of the lake. Such a beautiful area. If you're ever in the area, you should visit Kelley's Island. Here's more pictures of my daughter and the mayflies. She really, if you can see here, I don't know if you can see very well on this picture, but there are just hundreds and hundreds of those mayflies in the trees, and when you walk underneath them, they'll come flying at you. So my daughter just did not like that. But more pictures of us hiking. Now I wanted to say that you don't always have to use Project Life cards or pre-made cards in your books. These are just Stampin' Up! Papers that I cut down to 4x6 and 3x4. I just chose two prints that I liked and I thought worked well together. And then I cut those down and then I repeated it on the other side. So any pattern paper works well to make 3x4 cards for your travel journals. And here's just some more. I used a different retired paper on this side. And this is another section of the lake. This is something else I wanted to mention. Here's a picture I cut out of a brochure, and this picture was taken, I think, from out in the lake, so it's not a picture that I could have ever gotten myself. So it was nice to cut that out of the brochure and kind of give a bigger view of where we were, because you can't really tell from this picture that that was the surrounding landscape, so that was just a different perspective. And this is probably my favorite page, not because of the way it's decorated, but I just really like these photos. We got to go see the sunset on the lake the last evening we were there, and we have a Nikon DSLR, and so we played around with the exposure and the settings on it, and we got these two really cool pictures of the sunset, and I just really like the pinky orange color in it. This is like what it looked like actually, but then when we played with the exposure, we got those really pretty pictures. So that's probably my favorite page. And then this is the last day of our trip. I used a Project Life card that was very, very fitting because we got up to break camp and it was pouring down rain, which is always so much fun when you're camping, trying to tear down everything in the rain and bring it home all wet. We did stop on the way home at Marblehead Lighthouse. I got a postcard while we were there, and the horizontal postcards I go ahead and put in page protectors, but when I get a vertical postcard, I like to punch holes in it and then use the back to journal. It's just another way to include a lot more journaling in your travel journal scrapbooks. And then I got some brochures of the Lighthouse, and then I bought this little one in the gift shop. It just gives a little bit of the history of the Lighthouse, and I thought that was neat to include. And then my last tip is that if you are at national parks or lighthouses or some other parks, they might have a passport stamp. So it's always fun to get extra stamps, you know, make an extra copy of the image and use one in your scrapbook. So I did that there. The lighthouses all have a passport stamps. So I included that in there along with my pictures of the lighthouse. And then this is just my last page. This is the last thing we did. We went through the Lighthouse Museum, and so I included some of the pictures that we had seen, and then I included some journaling about our trip home. So I hope you've enjoyed this flip through of my Kelly's Island travel journal scrapbook, and I hope it's inspired you to help document some of your memories. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to see more crafty videos, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.